whether we're talking about choice and her stance on defending a woman's right to choose versus Donald Trump, who eliminated a right to choose in this country.
Well, he sent it back to the states, to be fair.
Let's be very clear. He is proud of the fact that he demolished the national right to choose in this country, period.
But there are states that are figuring this out. I mean, there are some that are, I mean, it's nearly impossible, a 6-week ban or less. But there are others, there are states in this country that allow no restrictions up until the due date of a child.
There was a national right to choose in this country, law of the land, for 50 years, which the vast majority of Americans believe was the right thing to do. But Donald Trump made a promise when he was a candidate, one of the few promises he actually kept, by the way. You know, he didn't keep his promise of 6% economic growth. He didn't keep his promise to drain the swamp.
He did have a pandemic to deal with.
Well, but even before the pandemic, even before the pandemic, America went into a manufacturing recession, which really hurt places like where I come from in the industrial Midwest. But anyway, my point is, he broke his promise for that kind of economic growth. He broke his promise to pass an infrastructure bill, right? He said he would do that. He failed to do it. The Biden-Harris administration got it done. He even broke his promise to that January 6th mob when he said, I will be at your side when you march down to the Capitol. But he actually did keep 2 promises. He kept his promise to destroy the right to choose in this country, and he kept his promise on tax cuts for the rich. And if you want to know what a second Trump term would be like, I would start by looking at those rare promises that he actually managed to keep.
He did say that he wanted to get rid of Roe v. Wade, but again, send it to the states where they are hashing this out
empower the states to eliminate women's access to abortion. And also, as you know, the Republican Party continues to be interested in a national abortion ban.
Which he's disavowed completely.
Yeah, he's disavowed a lot of things. I don't believe him. Because he lies all the time.
You think that his pledge that he would not pass a national ban is one that
it's one that's going to go down with most of the promises that he's made and broken.
To my core, I think that each one of these Fox News hosts truly believes that finally they'll be the one to trip up Pete Buttigieg. And so they all invite him on their shows thinking that they're armed with the required skills to out-debate him, and one by one, they learn that they don't, in fact, possess the capacity to out-debate him, and that what they've actually done, in effect, is offer him a platform to dispel right-wing disinformation on the very network that perpetuates that right-wing disinformation. Bravo, Fox News. Bravo. Here, Shannon Bream from Fox News chooses the especially precarious talking point that Donald Trump is some kind of a moderate because he sent the right to choose back to the states. What he did was enable the systematic dismantling of the 50-year-old right to choose in this country. Donald Trump is why there is a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. Trump is why there is an abortion desert in the U.S. South. Trump is why sexual assault victims at 12 years old are giving birth to their rapist babies. Trump is why 10-year-old rape victims are fleeing their states so that they don't become mothers before they've learned multiplication. Let's not be purposefully obtuse about this. Donald Trump is why nearly half of American states now have abortion bans against the express stated will of their own constituents. Remember, when Americans actually had the opportunity to have their voices heard on this issue, they roundly rejected it. And not just in blue states either, but voters in Ohio, in Kentucky, in Kansas, in Alabama, in Virginia. This is an unpopular policy enacted by politicians who are unaccountable to the people that they represent. And it was all made possible by Donald Trump, who has ensured that we're all well aware of his responsibility for it.
Especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended.
So I get that Republicans want to claim that Donald Trump merely handed the decision back to the states, but Shannon Bream and the rest of the right knows that this talking point is as pathetic as it is false. Donald Trump is directly responsible for the first rollback of civil rights in modern U.S. history. And despite doing their level best to obfuscate the facts, Americans are well aware. And they're going to respond the way that they did in 2022 and in 2023 because we're not stupid and we recognize what sending it back to the states actually means. And you can see Shannon Bream try to surface this desperate talking point that some states allow abortion up to the due date, as if that's disqualifying. Let's be clear, there is zero evidence that women are aborting up to the 9th month just because they want to, because they feel like it. There are only 0.9% of women who get abortions after 21 weeks, and of those abortions, the actual evidence shows that they're happening because of fetal anomalies and health risks to the mother, or because of obstacles to abortion services posed earlier in the pregnancy. And by 30 weeks, the number of abortions is down to virtually zero. So when states allow abortions without restriction, meaning up to the 9th month, That is a good policy because it's there to ensure that when women need it, which according to the data is the only time it's used, they can get the appropriate care when they need the appropriate care and not be subject to the whims of some Christo-fascist politicians who think that they're in government to enforce the Bible when they should be focused on not putting themselves between a woman and her doctor. So when Republicans like Shannon Bream here suggest that women are casually having late-term abortions up to the 9th month, they are lying to play on your emotions because they think you're stupid. In fact, I literally heard this same right-wing talking point spouted by RFK Jr. when I interviewed him, and I wasn't about to let him up on it either.
When you say that there are a huge amount of abortions that would necessitate some federal intervention, where is the proof of that?
Well, I would have to look at the data again, which I'm happy to do. But the data that we were shown was that there were a large number of abortions that were elective in the end, at the end of pregnancy. So if there are any abortions at that point, it's wrong. It's a viable child at 9 months and, let's say 9 months and 1 day. Should you be able to abort? I mean, do you think you should be able to abort a perfectly healthy child at 9 months?
But there's no evidence that women are doing that. That's the whole basis for what I'm asking. When you impose federal interventions against women who the data show are dealing with fetal anomalies, health risks to the mother, then I shouldn't be litigating that. No government bureaucrat should be litigating that. That's a decision between a woman and her doctor because these issues are highly personal.
So for everybody watching, when you hear this tired right-wing talking point, ask one simple question. Where is the evidence that women are abusing abortion rights up to the 9th month versus simply using them when those rights are most urgently needed? I'll give you a hint, they're not going to be able to give it to you. And look, I get that Shannon's goal here was to try and carry water for Republicans by neutralizing a very potent issue on the left, but all she did was offer a platform for Pete to combat this disinformation and to keep this issue in the zeitgeist. Look, Republicans will never be on the right side of this issue. 3/4 of this country recognize that Roe was popular, that it was just, and that it was necessary. Republicans have royally screwed themselves in doing what they did, not only to call for the overturning of Roe and to support the appointment of judges who would actually do the overturning of Roe, but then using that as a predicate to pass draconian abortion bans in state after state after state. There is no way to put lipstick on this pig. The right has saddled itself with the least popular policy enactment in modern American history. No matter how hard they try to justify it or run away from it, they own it. And it certainly doesn't help that they are saddled with an idiot Republican nominee who loves the adulation from his far-right base so much that he can't stop himself from taking credit for all of this at his rallies, including at his most recent one.
And I want to thank the 6 Supreme Court Justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, John Roberts, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett for the wisdom and courage they showed on this long-term, very contentious issue.
So as hard as Trump tries to convince us of this lie that legal scholars wanted Roe overturned, we know what it looks like when we're being gaslit. We know what it looks like when our rights have been taken away. We know what it looks like when rape victims are forced to give birth to their rapist children. We know what it looks like when little girls who've been molested become moms in middle school. We know what it looks like when women are forced to carry non-viable fetuses to term, even when it threatens their own future fertility or their own lives. Republicans have waged war on women in this country, and they're about to learn that women and their allies are more than ready to fight back, and we're going to win. I've got a really exciting announcement. I've written a book. It's called Shameless. This book explores how Republicans have exploited their historical branding while attacking our democracy, how the media has proven itself a willful participant, and how Democrats can learn from this to rebalance the political scales and save our democracy. It has been a lifelong dream of mine to write my own book, and so I'd like to ask you to pre-order it by clicking the link right here on the screen. And if you buy within this pre-order period, your book is going to come with a signed nameplate. As you know, I've never had a single sponsor on my channel. I don't ask for money or anything like that, but if you're looking for a way to support me, this is hands down the best way to do it. So again, follow the link right here on the screen, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for pre-ordering Shameless. And as always, make sure to subscribe to see more of my content.